IT team, can you confirm whether we can proceed?
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So this year, 2022, Karmaanta' IIM Raipur is asking questions about brand building. Okay. And brand building is something which is related to awareness in relation to organization. Okay. How do we promote companies? Okay. Related strategies and tactics, whatever is required. And recently there was a blockbuster movie, Pushpa. It has also popularized the concept of brand. I hope individual branding, right? So we are going to discuss, I won't say the same line, we'll be discussing branding in a deeper sense, okay? Individual as well as organizational branding, okay? So I, Dr. Damini Saini, faculty at IIM Raipur, welcoming you all to this thought-provoking panel discussion with our stellar panelists today who are with us. And we'll be discussing on the topic of brand building, a necessity for a new age players. Okay. So I believe through this panel discussion, we will be peeling through the layers of questions that are there. Okay. And I hope the younger audience that we have will delve deeper into this discussion, because we are having expert panelists and you all will be benefited by those. Okay, so how we will be proceeding? At first, I will be asking each of the panelists to give an opening remark about the topic. Then we'll be accumulating everyone in a very nice deliberation, and then in the last, for 10 or 15 minutes, we'll be having questions from our young audience. Okay, so I believe, firstly, I request Mr. Parik Jain, founder and CEO of EIIR Trend, to give an opening remark on the topic of brand building. Okay, so sir, I now hand over the screen to you and invite you to make your opening remark on brand building.
Thank you, Professor Damini and the SEC team for inviting me. I am happy to be here. I was on the other side of the table in one of the IIMs 20 years back. Of course, we didn't have Zoom then. It was more fun physically. So right. Zoom has its own advantages also. So we could not have this kind of session in our times where travel would have taken 2 days to go there. So coming to branding, I think branding is the single most important criteria and success of organization and individual after performance. But performance is important. Otherwise, brand cannot help a poor product, poor organization, or you don't have skills. But after that is single most important. I wish somebody could have told me 20 years back this thing. But it is very important in my industry, especially this industry I came from, research and advisory. Brand is the essential quality there, because we talk about your projections, your opinions, how industry will focus on, and everybody has opinion in India. Everybody in this room has opinion. Everybody has opinion. Why somebody will give you top dollars for your opinion? So it is because of the brand you build in, your credibility you bring in. And I am also someone who has established his personal brand enough while in job to start his own consulting and advisory firms. And my firm is small, but my customers are very big. They are all top 10 IT firms and top 10 engineering firms. And why such a big firms will work with such a small firm is again because of brand. And also I'm heavily quoted in the media, like over 500 quotes. And today also, if you see Times of India in the Ukraine crisis, impact on IT industry, I'm quoted today. So why a media house like a Times of India will quote a person like me or a small organization? So it is all about branding and has a very important role to play in it. And happy to discuss is as we go in the discussion and more in the question answers. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Parik. Now I would like Mr. Chetan Chechra for his opening remark on the same topic.
Sure. Thank you, Professor Damini, for inviting me. First of all, I would like to say brand building as a topic is very important in today's world when we are witnessing a huge wave of entrepreneurship in India and the world across. I would say today we are living in a world where brand get noticed much before a service delivery has happened or a product has reached to the product eyes or hands, I would say. Today's environment is something which is like where we need to focus more on specialists rather than on being journalist. Mr. Parekh rightly said that why Times of India as a such big media house would focus on Mr. Jain and rather than not quoting others. It's because of the brand that he has built across. I think if we need to get noticed in a world where so many of professionals are working in a similar domain, where so many of products are existing in the similar domain, how do we get noticed? The only way to get noticed is how do we challenge the status quo? What is something which is already going on? How do we disrupt the particular market, be it through a particular service line or a product that we are building? I particularly happen to be part of a big consulting firm. However, I would say 20 years back, we as an organization were very small. We were almost 5,200, and now we are 6,000 people across India. So how have we turned around this entire thing is one based on the brand that we have built across. And I would like to mention the brand in itself for an entity cannot be just surviving on the existence of the entity. It has to be a collaborative force which is brought in by the various collection of brand which exist at an individual level. So all these individuals bring their brand together, which helps the organization to sustain their brand in a longer run. That's where branding is something which holds importance. In our organization, we tend to grow leaders from the grassroots level so that these collaborative force can function well. And there are various programs that we run across within our organization to grow that or to promote that culture. So that's largely from an opening remark standpoint, Professor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chetan. So I would like to invite Mr. Vijay Mishra now. Sir, please.
Thanks, Professor Damini, for inviting me, and thank you for this platform. Today's world, virtual platform is the easiest thing to catch up with everyone at the fastest pace, and that's what we are getting habituated to for the last 2 years. So good thing to see. I would like to understand now or later what is Karmaanta means. I mean, what is the concept behind it? And what was your purpose of doing this? Yeah, you want to answer it now or later?
Okay, later, fine.
Okay. So, no, you can answer it now also if you want.
I was asking Aditya for that.
Okay.
Yes, sir, sure. So Karmaanta basically means business in Sanskrit. And we have a theme for that, Karmaanta, decipher the enigma. So, sir, deciphering the enigma, the mysteries or the hidden potential that each of us hold, we want to explore that out and put in front of the world so that we can terrain the unknown territories that we are not aware of. So, sir, collaborating these two things is what our theme is based this year.
Great. Good, nice concept. I mean, as you said rightly, we all have a potential which is unexplored, uncharted territory and a lot of things to do. So good to bring in. See, brand is a very strategic and a very subjective terminology. I mean, if we want to write 1,000 books on it, we can write it, each one of us. We have read it or not, but we can still write it. It's a terminology which takes long years to build up. And one thing you do wrong, you are finished. I have many live examples. All of us, at least 4 of us, and Professor Damini, you have been in industry for quite a couple of years, so you would know a lot of brands coming up and going out. For example, you have Kitply. You know, earlier people used to say, I'm buying Kitply. They were not saying I'm buying ply. People still say, I'm going to buy Fevicol. They still ask, I want Bisleri. They don't say mineral water. So it's something that it takes lot many years to build up, and Kitply is no more. Nokia is no more. So, I mean, people have come and gone. So it takes a lot of effort to build a brand. And as I think, Chetan spoke about, so it's a collaborative effort to build up a brand. It's not a single individual who can become. I mean, there are cases. For example, in India, we have Mr. Modi, who is a brand now. So BJP people say last time an election was done in UP, today election is also happening in UP. People said Modi ji aa gaye, Modi ji win, I mean in UP. So he's become a brand. So individual brand is again a very big subject, which I think you have already covered in your questions ahead. So brand is a consistent effort to build up something where you need to put many things at one go and to ensure that your people who are your addressee or who are the actual buyer of your product or services, how benefited they are and what is the value perception they see from you compared to what other competitors are offering. I mean, it can be a product or a service, but how you differentiate yourself. Like Parik spoke about, getting associated with TOI. So TOI, remember, I mean, they are there since ages, and still they are number one, and there is no competition. They say we don't have competition. So the industry space from where I am coming from, I belong to a building material space, and in building material, I've served with different companies. I worked with best of the brands like Saint Gobain for about 5 years, and I'm working with a brand called Johnson today, where I'm president for Johnson business. We are a 2,000 crore top line business in India, and we are 63-year-old in country. We are more than 100 years globally. So it's a big brand to talk about, and to have this brand going on, as I said, Kitply has come and gone. To have this consistency, you require a lot of effort at different angle and need to keep on innovating, need to be ahead of the chart, need to do many things at the same time, right? So as I said, if we want to write 1,000 books, we can write, and we will not be able to stop ourselves. So that's from my side, and you can continue further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vijay. It was very nicely articulated. And now I would ask Mr. Harsh, and Harsh has written a book on brand, which is called as Brand Story. As Vijayji just discussed about a book, you can write a lot of books. So what's your remark, Mr. Harsh?
So first of all, Professor Damini, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, IIM Raipur. Thank you all the students for being the audience. And again, thank you for making me the part of this esteemed panel. Just talking about my book, I have written 3 books on Indian brands. And let me just give you a context why I wanted to write a book on Indian brands and new age Indian brands like Zomato, Paperboat, Big Basket, and others. Because I did my MBA from one of the top MBA colleges in India and worked with, when I came to the market, I realized that most of the literature that we study in business schools cover examples of American brands. But India is not America. The way the brands were created in America, the developed markets like America can't be created in diverse and developing market like India. So I found a void. Another thing I found that some literature is available on established Indian brands like Tata's and others, but these kind of brands were created before liberalization and over the decades. There is a void on the literature about new age Indian brands, which are getting created in the digital environment for the millennials, for the Gen Z. And when I found this void, I felt that media talks a lot about the fancy stuff about these brands, like fundraising, partnerships, and all. They don't talk about the how and why of their journeys, like how they were able to establish a unique positioning for themselves in a crowded market, how they were able to get so much substantial customer base so fast. And I felt that I will figure out all these things. And I started interviewing the founders of these companies. And that's the way these books came up. The first 2 books published with CNBC on new age Indian brands called Booming Brands. And then I found another problem statement in the current market, which is like a new creator economy is emerging. I mean, the way the youngsters wanted to become engineers and doctors once upon a time, today they are getting attracted to become YouTubers because they are looking at the financial windfall which is happening with all these content creators. And I realized that the market is getting crowded and crowded because anybody can take a video with a smartphone and can become a YouTuber, but anybody and everybody cannot become a brand. So that's why I wrote my perhaps India's first book on creator economy, which is called Booming Digital Stars, in which I covered the journeys of India's top 11 creators, and I'm sure most of the students will be aware about them. And to answer the question, I will bring 3 examples, 2 from the startup environment and 1 from the creator environment. The first example I want to talk about is Flipkart. Flipkart, and whenever anybody thinks about Indian startup world, Flipkart names comes at the top, though it is a loss-making company. But Walmart paid $16 billion to buy a significant stake in Flipkart. It's not like that any other e-commerce company at a lesser valuation was not available at that time. They were available. But even then, Walmart paid such a high price to buy a stake in a company that was in a new market, creating a new business and was making losses. Why? Because Walmart didn't buy just an e-commerce company. They bought a brand that is competing head-on with Amazon, the brand that is able to show the future potential, future earnings to Walmart, and that's why they paid that much price. So that shows the power of the brand that made Flipkart stood out in front of many other companies. The second example of a new age brand that I want to talk about is Paperboat. Indian beverage market is filled with so many brands. I mean, if I talk about fruit juices, Dabur's Real is there, Tropicana is there, and the brand, I mean, Dabur is a much big brand. Pepsi, which is behind Tropicana, is such a huge brand with so much distribution power, so much money. Even then, Paperboat, a startup, is able to create a brand name that I'm sure if I ask anybody in the class, they will know Paperboat, what it is all about, right? How come? Because they focused on branding. They created a new subcategory, which is Indian ethnic drinks, to differentiate themselves from the established players. I mean, they focused on the distribution channel. Like, for example, any FMCG brand that comes into the market focus on the departmental stores, Kirana stores and all. But they made Indigo Airlines as their first distribution channel so that they can connect with target audience in the flight of 1.5 hour to 2 hours when no other brand is reaching out to them, and that they created a specific positioning for them. And the third example, before I give an example, I want to ask all the students, do you know Bhuvan Bam? Raise your hand if you know him. Bhuvan Bam, Prajakta Kohli. Okay. Now, there are so many content creators available on internet, on Instagram and all. But people like Ashish Chanchlani, Bhuvan Bam, Prajakta Kohli stand out. And today, many brands are paying them in lakhs and lakhs to talk about their products on their social media channel with their audience. Why? Because these creators have created their individual personal brands in such crowded markets that today well-funded startups want to get endorsed by them instead of, let's say, a movie celebrity or a cricket star. Because they created a brand, they created a trust with their audience. And in the upcoming questions, we will talk more about them. But sorry for giving a long answer to your short question.
No, it's very, very informative, Harshji. So I think students have been really benefited by this. Aditya, would you like to give a quick introduction of our guests?
Sure, ma'am. So, I, Aditya Tiwari, on behalf of IIM Raipur, would like to welcome you all again to Karmaanta' 2022 in association with Union Bank of India. I would also like to thank our event sponsors who has extended their support throughout. To take this wonderful discussion panel forward, we have a panel that has done it all, whether be it helping their firms transform into brands or being a brand themselves in whichever organization or domain they have worked in. And these fine gentlemen have been through everything. Our first panelist is Mr. Vijay Mishra, President, H&R Johnson India. Mr. Mishra has been associated with ceramics and glass industry for past 20 years and has worked with the biggest of firms in the business like Century Plyboards, St. Gobain India Private Limited. He was the Deputy General Manager of Sales and Marketing at Kajaria Ceramics Limited and then worked with RK Ceramics as the National Heads of Ceramics Division. He is currently the President of H&R Johnson India, which is the division of Prism Cement Limited. Our next panelist is Mr. Harsh Pamnani, an alumni of XLRE Jamshedpur. Mr. Pamnani is a brand expert and a best-selling author of books like Booming Brands and Booming Digital Stars. He has worked with unicorn startups like FirstCry.com and Icertis, think tanks like the World Bank, and consulting firms like Deloitte. He writes in various business publications, including Forbes and CNBC. Our next speaker is Mr. Chetan Chitra. Mr. Chishra is an executive director at Grant Thornton Bharat LLP in advisory service with a focus on risk advisory service. Sir is a chartered accountant by profession and has more than 14 years of work experience in assisting corporates in shaping their governance frameworks. A majority of his experience includes assisting clients with across various sectors such as automotive, consumer products, infrastructure, and real estate, and strengthening their corporate governance culture by focusing on risk management, process reengineering, and information technology. Sir is also actively involved in writing through papers and publications apart from an active role with industrial bodies like ACMA, FICCI, and CII. And our last panelist for the day is Mr. Parikh Jain. Mr. Jain is the founder and CEO of EIIR Trend, a research and advisory firm focusing on engineering, IoT, Industry 4.0, and R&D. Mr. Parikh has over 20 years of work experience and has worked in a variety of firms and roles across service providers, manufacturing enterprise, consulting firm, research firm before starting EIIR Trend. Sir is a BTech from IIT Delhi and an MBA from IIM Bangalore. He is also an adjunct faculty at AIT Thailand, where he teaches Industry 4.0 course for working professionals. He also likes to research and about the industry trends in engineering and Industry 4.0. Sir has also authored more than 200 research studies and has provided more than 500 media quotes to various global and Indian media outlets like the Business Standard, The Hindu, Indian Express, Harvard Business Review, Business Today, and Business Insider. Sir also loves to write business fiction in his free time and has published a novel, Who is That Lady? He also likes to interact, discuss, and share information and insights on social media platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, where he has more than 90,000 followers. And to moderate this wonderful panel, we have our own Dr. Damini Saini. Dr. Damini Saini is an assistant professor in the area of human resource management and organizational behavior at IIM Raipur. Dr. Saini holds a PhD degree in HRM and OB from Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. Her dissertation discusses the study of human management and development with an integral leader models, which also talks about the transcend of minds and possibilities of a transformation from outside to inside and reflects the psychological, emotional, spiritual well-being. Apart from this, Dr. Saini's interests are leadership, business ethics, significance of ethical education and management, etc. She has also contributed to various internationally acclaimed journals and book chapters. Ma'am, I request you to take this panel forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aditya. We can see that how diverse panel we are having today. We can have a lot of expertise, information from these gentlemen. Okay, so I'll starting the questions for today, and the first question is, what are the specific traits or attributes that differentiate a brand from a normal competitors in the same industry? So what are the specific attributes which differentiate a brand from a normal company, normal organization? Any one of you?
If I may go first, Professor Damini, I would
Okay.
talk about, largely in my opinion, there are three differentiators which I feel is something which guides a particular brand to be a brand or known brand within the market. The first one is the collaborated forces, which I briefly talked about while I had given an introduction to this. I still feel that as part of an organization, yes, there are individuals who have built their brands over a period of time. But when it comes to an organization who is trying to build a brand or challenge a status quo within a particular domain where there are existing players with much deeper pockets, where much deeper client base or a customer base, collaborative forces play a very important role. How we can actually bring in the individual brand which are existing within a particular organization to the top of the pyramid and bring the organization or build the organization brand in the market. That is something which I feel is one of the prime factors to build a brand. The second is sustainability. I would say building a brand is one part to it, and Mr. Mishra has rightly pointed out that there were brands like Kitply, there were brands like Nokia, which were once called as the mammoth brand or the brand which could never die. But we have seen then those also diminishing over a period of time. So how do we build sustainability in the overall brand building activity? How do we sustain a brand which has once been built is one of the other differentiating factor when it comes to brand building. The third thing is, which I feel is the agility of a brand to respond to a particular challenge. So one of the most important trait that how agile your brand is. There would be a lot of competition that you would be facing. There would be new fearless brands entering into the market once you have already entered. There would be more minds who would be much more innovative than you, who would be much more challenging than you in terms of your in terms of their capabilities, in terms of their reach. But the idea is, how do you develop yourself? How do you cope up with those challenges? How agile are you in the market is something which would shape your brand in future. So building a brand, I would say, is one part to it. The other part, which is more important, is how do we sustain a brand in futures to come, is something which is one of the most important attribute going forward. So that's from my side.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chetan. So apart from sustainability and agility, anything else do you think differentiate a brand from a normal organization?
I would like to add on this. See, apart from agility and sustainability, there is a continuous innovation which is required to be happening at marketplace. I mean, as Chetan said correctly, a lot of new companies come up with new ideas and innovation, and they take away whatever you have done for last so many years. So it is not only that whatever you're doing is correct today, you need to change with times.
Right.
And the part of industry what I am today is 45,000 crore industry, tiles industry, wherein 52% is organized and 48% is unorganized. Product wise, whatever I have to offer, I can say any other brand or non-brand can offer the same thing. How we differentiate is many a times where a brand makes a difference is the commitment to the customer, what they're going to deliver, the service to the customer. They may have a negative bottom line. So bottom line is irrespective. For a big brand like Tata, you can see a lot of time example, and we read a lot of LinkedIn messages wherein Mr. Ratan Tata is doing so without looking at what is the bottom line impact on the whole process. So that's where the brand building is taking a, plus point. So when we talk about brand building, as I said, innovation is something which needs to be done on a regular basis, continuous change. We need to recognize and invest in technology and product and people to have this innovation on board happening. A lot of time, a good brand, when they get into a business, they start doing good, they are new into market, and whenever somebody, for example, you're using any product, everybody wants to get into using something new. If you get like paper boat example, so it has come in new, people tasted it, they liked it, they've started using it. But if they do, right?
We are losing
right. So apart from what Chetan said, I think these are the 2 points which I wanted to add on.
All right, thank you. So we have seen that in the dynamic kind of environment, we require a lot of focus on the innovation and the technology part. So from this, I raise my next question, which is how much?
Can I add one thing, Professor?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
So to answer that question, how we can differentiate a brand from a regular competitor providing similar kind of product is the aura of the credibility. A brand has an aura of credibility around it, which makes people think that if this brand is a trust mark, if I am buying this product, as Mr. Mishra said, I'm going to get the quality that I'm expecting, I'm going to get on-time delivery that I'm expecting, and I'm going to get the experience that I'm expecting. And all this trust mark is coming because there is a brand name associated with that. And why I'm trusting that brand and paying higher price to buy a branded product over a non-branded product, because I have heard the stories in media from customers about that brand, about the promise, fulfillment of the promise, and that's why I'm ready to make more investment because I know that I will be getting the satisfactory results.
Right.
So can I add on this thread similarly?
Please.
I think I believe the brand is all about your trust or promise, and how you trust something is first your promise and accountability and trust. What you promise, you deliver, and then trust is built. I think most of you joined IIM Raipur despite the new institution because the promise of IIM brand. Ultimately, you will get the value out of it what other older IIMs have got. So that's where you get the trust out of it. If Apple develops a new product, we will probably try, because the brand name Apple or Tata, it develops new product, will get there. And it is different about different industry. In my IT industry, I work with top 10, and top 10 are all brands. If you say SCL, Infosys, TCS, Wipro, they are all brands. And despite that, they compete when they go on deals. So we found out what is the factor which can differentiate them, and then try to build a branding around them. So it's the overall brand, and then is the category brand, or is the particular deal brand, and that's where it differentiates. And parameters can vary across industries, as Mr. Vijay pointed out, Chetan, Harsh, and all. But overall, it requires a lot of consumer research, or your key customer research, what is valuable for them, and try to bring differentiation around it. And same category, you can have the Maruti, you can have Mercedes, your Tesla, all three are doing good, all three are brands. So it's not that one category is important. So any parameters you have to find out and build brand around them.
Right. So we have seen that not only the traits which can differentiate, how we can differentiate. So Parikh sir said that how we can differentiate in the market from the normal industries or organizations we have. Okay. So the next question is, how much significance is imposed by the companies on positioning themselves as a brand? That is, what are the spatial efforts that are being laid on the brand management?
So I can start.
Okay.
Like I think all companies are focusing on brand management. That's a given. Traditionally, it has been the B2C industry, which is focused more on brand management. And my times and IIMs, I think the brand management job after consulting in iBank, the brand management jobs, FMCG were the most coveted jobs. And for this reason. But now what is happening is B2B industry is also getting into brand management. Ultimately, people buy your product. They are people only. So you can influence them, where they are visiting, how they make decisions about this brand management. And also what is happening in the last few years, because of tools and technologies, people do a lot of analytics on impact of brands on different areas. Recently, Unilever did a study on this. So they realized that which countries their brand is strong, their cost of hiring is low. This was shared by Leena Nair, who was head of HR, then now CEO of Channel out there. And that's how companies are realizing the importance of brand management. And brand is not only for sales. It's for talent, it's for attracting investment, it's for attracting partners. And new age companies are more realizing that across there. So significance of brand has increased. I say with improvement in analytics and other technologies to measure the impact of it. It's not a theoretical concept. You can measure investment and measure the results now.
Anyone else who would like to make a comment on this?
Sure. If I may add, I think today's, if we talk about statistics, it would be almost 20% of an organization revenue is again channelized into brand building, kind of up to 20% is the rough estimate that we have always come across with various clients that we are functioning, that they funnel 20% back into the chain to build those brands. I think the brand building is something for any organization. It is something that it should represent their values and what they truly stand for. For example, we as an organization at Grant Thornton, we say or we associate ourselves by building or supporting building a vibrant Bharat. But this is more of a brand or more of a concept that we talk about. But how do we actually attach ourselves to this particular cause? So we work with government on the grassroots level to symbolize this particular message, that how are we assisting government in building vibrant Bharat, be it through our service deliveries, be it through working for communities at the ground, is something that is well replicated. The other thing is, which I feel is in today's environment, we still have a lot of, and which was not there a few years back, is something, the significant amount of data tools that we have right now to envisage that what is, where do we channelize our brand into? So how do we channelize our overall spend, or how do we channelize our overall traits into? So we have those, if we put them into the right direction, into the right, we can draw right influence either through social media, through various digital platforms. That is something which is helping brand or companies to position themselves right in the market.
I would like to add on this. I mean, see, am I audible? My network
Yes,
is
yes.
So your question was, what is the significance of brand building? What organizations respect for, right? So if you look about any business, for example, I take example of my business, wherein in tiles we have 4 different brands. We have Johnson, we have Endura, Porcelano, and Marbonite. Now, people who have made their house anytime, or who are into industrial state, they know that when they want to buy a product, they go to a consumer, to a dealer. They ask, "Boss, I want to buy," and there are different segment of buyers. So for any company to grow, we need to segment which are the segment we need to focus. So if we are making the same product every time. We want to differentiate, we need to differentiate on some of the parameter and need to introduce a new brand with the same parentage to ensure that we cater all segments of which are, consumer segment. So a lot of time it happens, for example, Maruti and Nexa. Maruti is there for last ages, and same vehicle, for example, you get it in Nexa also, same you get in Maruti also, with a slight differentiation, where it's a different brand image they have created. Same goes with many brands. I mean, as I said, you would not be able to relate to the brand what I have quoted of my company because we are into a different space. But at least Maruti and Nexa you can relate to. So for any company to grow on, they need to build on and invest continuously on the brand. And the significance of what is the brand they want to build up in 3 years vision, 5 years vision, 10-year vision, they need to keep on investing accordingly. It is not that they invest it today and they forget it forever. So it's a continuous exercise, continuous building up, reassurance at market to bring in a new brand with a differentiation to get into a bigger space. That's how a business grows. And it's one part of how it grows.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vijayji. Harshji, would you like to add on to it?
Yeah, ma'am. So, ma'am, I would like to explain this thing from little bit from the conceptual point, and we'll bring on the examples further. Before we think about brand, we think about category in our mind. Today, my clothes are dirty. I will think about two categories, washing powder and washing machine in my mind. And then I will think about which washing machine to buy and which washing powder to buy. So what is happening is that when I'm identifying a problem, I'm thinking about a category first, and I'm thinking about which are the top brands available in that category. So brands one of the most important thing for brand building is to define the category properly. Over the period of time, all the categories get crowded very much. Like, for example, IT services, which Mr. Jain was talking about. The category has already got crowded. Top 10 players will talk about the similar kind of stuff, but they will try to differentiate themselves under the subcategories. Like, for example, in washing machine, you would have seen automatic, semi-automatic. This is the way the different market leaders emerge in different subcategories or niches. So brand has to focus on that which subcategory or which niche is lesser crowded, where it can position itself as a leader, and then quickly get into that and establish a leadership position. Because people prefer to buy a leader rather than a follower. I mean, we go to and buy we want to buy a chocolate, the Cadbury comes to our mind first as compared to any other brand, because Cadbury is the leader, right? So another thing that Mr. Mishra was talking about the premiumness and all. The first concept that we discussed about is category. People think category first and the brand second. And then the brands also have to think about which segment they are going to cater. Is it like I'm creating this brand is going to satisfy the needs of masses or classes? On the basis of that, it is going to be a mass brand, premium brand, or a luxury brand. And accordingly, everything will get defined. The pricing, the distribution channel, the media engagements, because the perception has to be created in the mind of that kind of audience. So brands have to constantly focus that, is it like the middle class is earning more and they are moving from a middle class to upper middle class, and they have now more capacity to buy premium brands. So I may have to change my positioning now. All these trends affect the dynamism of positioning in the market and the brand management.
All right, very insightful, sir. So as we all know that perception plays a strong role within the branding. So how important is it to align impression management with the brand building? That is creating a certain kind of perceived value of a product or service or a brand over time. Do you get my question?
Yeah. So I can start on this.
Sure.
Yeah, I think people say that in first impression and last impression, so it's true for some extent to brand also. There's a functional value or there's a perceived value. So in consumer industry, like packaging is most important here. And if you say luxury car buying, experience is more important, hotel ambience will be important. In my industry, consulting, apart from advice, who is delivering it is also more important here. And it's different for different one. Like if you go to DMart, you expect a different kind of perception out there. So their customer buying is very different, and kind of value proposition they offer is very different. So best way to look for is identify the customer journey, and from your awareness to idea to purchase and to post purchase, and see where you can influence. And I will give you my example from my industry. Like IT service industry, generally many people have worked in IT industry before coming to MBA. When large deals are signed, generally customers come from mostly foreigners. They come to India, they do due diligence, they visit campuses, talk to pupils, see labs, and they are treated royally by these companies. So they must speak of 7-star hotels, sometimes private charters to go to different distinct places to give the impression. But one company I know tried the opposite. They had a very basic cars, they didn't do any of these facilities. And then they said that we are frugal company, we invest that in delivery, not in the sales and all to impress you. And they got the deal. So it's not that one thing works for everyone. What perception you want to, for same experience, the perception you want to create can go in your favor or against you also.
Okay. Harshji, would you like to make a comment on this?
Yeah, I will say the perception management or impression management is extremely important, and that is created by the kind of the associations that a brand is trying to have. For example, people create impression about a brand based on the people who are backing it. Like, for example, if a bigger investor like Sequoia Capital, SoftBank comes and backs a startup, definitely the impression about that startup elevates in the mind of the consumer. Then people associate, creates impression about a brand with the kind of awards a brand is winning, the kind of industry analyst ratings a brand is getting. For example, if a brand gets Economic Times Entrepreneur of the Year award or whatever, those kind of awards, they give a credibility that, okay, this brand would have something good as compared to competitors. That's why this award has been given, right? So that also creates a better perception in the mind of the audience. Then another thing that creates a perception or impression in the mind of the audience is a partnership, the kind of the partnerships that brand is creating. For example, in 1980s, Microsoft was just a startup and IBM was a market leader then. But Microsoft partnered with IBM by giving their operating system for IBM's personal computer, and suddenly a startup like Microsoft became a big name in the industry because of the partnership with the market leader IBM. And that happens everywhere. When a new player partners with a bigger player, the impression of the customers change. And then another thing that creates a perception in the mind of the consumers is who else is buying the product of this brand. Is it like the ministers, the celebrities, the influencers, or my neighbor? Who else is buying? Whom I trust, based on that, which I can create my shortcut to choose a brand. So all these things create an impression. And one more thing I just recalled I want to mention is that what kind of media is covering this brand? Is this brand getting covered by reputed journalists in reputed publications? Definitely my perception about that brand will increase a lot, and I will be happy to pay a higher price for that brand, because I know that the kind of people who are writing about this brand have high credentials. So definitely this brand would have something which I can't go and understand the technicalities, but based on these impressions and perceptions, I can make a judgment call. So definitely they matters.
Just to add on to what Mr. Harsh was saying, I would focus on two aspects. So I would say people generally tend to lose focus if they don't relate to a particular brand, and I would distinguish it in two parts, in service and product. So if you look at normally a company would either focus on the value system of the consumer, to create that brand awareness, to create that relatability with the product, or they would focus on the behavioral aspect of the consumer. So it could be either through use of logos, use of colors, for that matter. You would see maybe an advertisement or a commercial which is there for a detergent or for a washing powder. Those washing powder packets are surrounded by flowers. A washing powder has nothing to do with anything with flowers or any of those concepts, but they tend to relate it. Why? Because it creates a soothing effect and the relatability with the consumer. So they do all those relatability, and those are the ways that a brand can be built in and bring a more likability in terms of the consumer sentiments. The other thing that is very common in our consulting world, where we tend to promote our services when there is a bouquet of services also being offered by other competitors. So it's a very common saying in our consulting world that don't bring in English, bring in the experience that you want to share. So it's not something that you can sell based on the words that you have. What you also need to demonstrate is a depth of the service that you have. So apart from brand, how do you package it well with the work that you have already delivered, with the sense of commitment that you have already delivered, is something which brings in the lot of perception value, the lot of impression management when it comes to the brand likability and relatability.
All right, thank you so much. So since we were talking about the impression management or perceptions which are made by the brand, we move slightly towards the individual impression management. Okay, so how important is it to have yourself portrayed as a brand in your organization, and how much weightage is generally given by the individuals so that their voice in the organization is welcomed back by a certain kind of credibility? So we are talking about the personal branding kind of thing.
I would like to speak on this.
Sure, sir.
See, one, brand perception is something which is you need to work on. It is not something which is permanent. It keeps on changing for any brand, for any individual as well. So brands which are created for long and they have decades of history with them, they are vanished in some time. And brands which are newer brands which have come up, they have a bigger brand perception in people's mind. So that's where they create a difference. Now, this two things, when it happens because of brand doing something extraordinary, or they get in somebody who is expert of that business, or he knows the subject well. He has proven his brand. Like Tata got a CEO of Indian Airlines from Turkish Airlines. Everybody would have read it. So he himself has become a brand and he has turned around Turkish Airlines. So people believe that Indian Airlines will also start doing good. So an individual who has a track record of building a business, an individual who has created history for himself, for sure carries a lot of weightage for any brand to come in. And that's where the perception of the brand at marketplace changes. If the brand is not doing good because the perceived value of the brand has gone down, or whatever right or wrong they have done in last couple of months or years, if they need to change, they need to change leadership as well, in terms of who is going to drive this being at a driving seat, who is going to lead this business, and what are the changes he will bring in, what he would have done it at the other place that would help them to build up, that will change the perception at marketplace. So it works both ways. I mean, brand has to work for itself, plus the individual who is working there, and the importance of the individual himself as a brand is a bigger thing when the brand is not doing good.
Okay. All right, sir. So you talked about the excellent track record and the people who are creating history by their own expertise. Means what I understood is the mastery of the person, the individual, which impose them as a brand in a company.
Right. I mean, historically, what he has proven for himself, and it is very industry specific. So if somebody is in some industry and he has proven his track record. And today, India's size of business is big in whatever industry you pick it up. So if somebody is doing good in his industry and he himself becomes a brand for that specific region, for that specific industry, so it may vary. And if particular area you are weak, you're not able to do what is required to be done, you get the right fix done and you support that individual with whatever is required. Brand doesn't have an option of not supporting. So if they support, because they have done the changes, if they support it, for sure brand is going to get benefited.
Great, great. So Chetanji, would you like to? Yes.
I'll just like to add one thing. In our organization, where we are more of a service focused and a client focused organization, so we typically tend to promote a particular person to a next level based on the brand that he or she has built across over a period of time within the organization and outside the organization. And when we say brand, it's not only driven by the P&L that person is handling. Sometimes there are other traits that over and above the P&L that a person is handling becomes more important in deciding whether a guy deserves a next level or not. So there are 5 traits typically we look at in a particular person at a personal level. The one is how motivated the person is to go on to the next level, the level of motivation that he has to bring on the new solution, to bring on the new expertise, which could help clients in resolving their day-to-day challenges. The other thing is intellect, how technically that person is, the strong he or she is. The next is communication, resilience, and credibility. So these are the 5 aspects typically we look in a particular leader when we are looking to promote him or her to the next level. So that's something which is very, very significant when it comes to a personal brand building. And these are the 5 traits we typically look for in a person from a brand building perspective.
Yeah. So to
All right. Thank you so much.
To add to what Chetan and Vijay are saying, I am someone who got benefited from personal brand while I was in a firm and able to launch my own firm on this. So I will say the personal brand is very important. And as Indians, we are shy about it. Like typically as a culture, blowing our own trumpet, trying to, but this is very important. And Vijay, Chetan, and Harsh can just do it. In senior level recruitment, nobody sends CV. It's your brand. Recruiter calls you. And there, junior level, it's a CV. After 5-10 years, the CV goes away. It's your reputation in the industry, the brand, which brings in. So apart from other areas, the next level of career will be always on the brand, either internally, what Chetan is showing, promoting, or externally. Somebody will hire you for your brand only. Only mistake I think the youngsters do sometimes the proportion. When you are entry level, your job is coding, your YouTube will not help you that much there. Your job is code there. But when you go senior level, your branding is important. So I think only the proportion is that important. Sometimes too much focusing on branding and less on content might be at initial stages, might be a little bit of counterproductive. But at senior level, every recruitment, every deal, every internal promotion is based on your branding. And you have to speak to yourself. Now there are a lot of avenues you can talk about your expertise there, and that will help you in long run in your career.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Parikji. Yes, Vijayji. Yeah. So Vijayji, we have received your message just now. So thank you so much for being here. And we are very thankful to you for your time.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, same here. And thank you all the panelists. Thank you young talent students who are coming up. Before I log off, I actually had a 1:15 I have to needed to leave. I thought it will get wrapped up. I think it will go on for next 10-15 minutes. So all the best. Before I wrap up, I would like to say a statement to all the students who are here. I mean, when we are talking about brand, I would suggest everyone, each one of you should become a brand for yourself. I mean, don't work for a company or, you become an entrepreneur or you work somewhere else. Do something when you look back in your life, you enjoy and cherish that what you have done for yourself. So when you start doing that and you want to be happy when you look back, you should not work for the sake of working it. You should be passionate about what you're doing it. If you have that passion in your whole heart and soul, it will definitely work out. And you will become a good brand for yourself and people will recognize your effort. Right. So all the best. Thank you, Ms. Damani, and thank you, Harsh, Chetan, Parikh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. Nice connecting.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Ji Harshji, you were
So,
about to say something.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I would like to add on to the point made by Mr. Jain that first and foremost, a person has to focus on building substance. Image cannot be built without the foundation of substance. That is like superficial and it will fall apart. So definitely in the initial years, everybody should focus on building the substance, be it coding skills, be it on Excel skills or whatever the skill that person has wants to become known for. First and foremost, person should become known for the skills and then try to enhance the horizon to get known for many other things like leadership qualities and all. And now I will talk about the benefit of having a personal brand. See, the benefit of having a personal brand is that it helps you to attract people towards you whenever you are starting something new. Even within a large organization, if you are starting a new project, the best talent will get attracted to work with you because you are known for something, for your credentials, for your behavior, for your work, for your past achievements or so. So more and more people good talent would come towards to you to work with you. The second thing is that if you have a strong personal brand, you will be able to attract investments, be it within the organization or maybe in your entrepreneurial venture, because within the organization also, the top leadership would like to invest in a person who is known for something, who is known for delivering, who is known for quality, which are the ingredients of a brand, right? So that helps in that. So in a way, personal brand helps. And I will also like to give one example in which the personal brand of a person helps organization to get eminence. I mean, definitely Chetan can relate that well to, because Grant Thornton and all these big firms, they basically get a lot of businesses based on the credentials and the brands of their partners and directors. It really happens in these kind of firms because their partners are known for something. But from the education world, I would like to give an example. Everybody knows Professor Philip Kotler. People have been reading his books for years and years. And because, he has been teaching in Kellogg School of Management in the US for over 50 years. And because people know Professor Philip Kotler for marketing, they also associate Kellogg as one of the top institutions in marketing. And that also makes Kellogg helps Kellogg to attract many people for its marketing programs, which are which might or might not be getting taught by Philip Kotler. But yeah, because of Philip Kotler's positioning, Kellogg also has got a positioning, and it attracts people, students, and professors to work with the brand.
Very, very pertinent example you have quoted here. Very meaningful. So we have seen that what makes an individual brand, and as Vijayji said, that everyone has to work towards personal branding. It's something why we are discussing it, because it has some meaning in it. And Harshji also said that what makes you a brand, what are the critical substances. Chetanji said that what are the leadership qualities that a person could have if you want to be a brand. So after all those important aspects of personal brand building, we move towards the strategy formulation. And the question is, how does the strategy formulation part of brand building differs in a service-based business and a product-based business? Means how the strategy formulation is different in relation to brand building in a service-based business and a product-based business.
I have joined.
I think
Chetan sir, would you like to take it first?
Yeah, sure.
You run. You are the part of a business which is high involvement category. They're very tough to sell.
Yeah. So honestly, with my personal experience, I would say building a brand and selling a brand in service industry is slightly more difficult when it comes to a product-based industry. In a product-based industry, you still have a USP which can be demonstrated through the product, which is a tangible product in hands and eyes of the consumer. So typically, their brand, even though brand precedes the work product that you are giving, in terms of you can only bring in a consumer to experience the tangible product only if you have created a brand well enough, because otherwise consumer tend to move to a brand which is already well established. But if you want to attract the consumer in the right direction, you need to build on the brand strategy. That's one part to it. But when it comes to service, service delivery typically happens much after, when you have actually sold your service. In our service line, you typically sign a particular engagement letter, or you typically sign a contract 1 year in advance when you are actually delivering the service at the end of the year, particularly in terms of exercises like audit, etc., where you tend to work towards end of the year, but you sign a particular contract and ask a client to pay upfront for a service which you would be delivering 12 months hence. So here the brand building is something which is very utmost important. That can be built largely to two pieces. One, how active you are when it comes to a particular sector. So if we go to a particular client and we don't know what this client is all about, what this sector is all about, it's something that we lack depth there. So here, two most important aspects: how well you can package yourself in terms of giving them the industry dynamics, telling them, yes, we know your business, and then only we can add value to your business. That's one part to it. The other thing is, we also deal in some kind of an annuity business. So if you have an engagement letter for year one, how do you force your client to renew it in the next year? So that's the other piece where you want, again, a brand to kick in. One, that brand can only kick in once you have given an exceptional service delivery. So a brand has to be backed by two things. One is, yes, how the service delivery actually happens, which would bring the client back and back again. And the other thing is, how do you package yourself well so that you get noticed by a particular client working in that domain. So these are the two aspects by which I feel branding in a service industry and selling it to the client is much difficult when it comes to product.
Okay.
Right.
All right, Parik ji, would you like to say something on that?
A continuation of Chetan was saying, I'm also from service industry, but I have seen that branding is three types of here. Like one is the emotional, where typically FMCG company comes, Nike just do it, or Dil Mange More, Pepsi kind of thing. Second is functional, which typically are done by the firms in your, like printer firms, electronic firms, mobiles. In our industry, machines are more about functional characteristics of this. And third is services. Services are intangibles. So there are two ways, as Chetan rightly pointed out. First, initially is more about thought leadership here in our industry, how you are perceive a thought leadership. And I utilize this a lot. That's why I've written 200 articles every week I write. So people read about it and they come back for comments, and media comes asking for comments, our customers come. So developing thought leadership. And second is annuity contracts, the delivery. Thought leadership is start, but if you're not deliver on the things, is about these things. And then there are some other intangibles like number of people you have, quality, solutions, and all that. But overall, I think biggest thing is starting is the thought leadership, the brand of this is, and then is the delivery, which will have you the repeat customers. And in product, you can have the emotional and functional part more.
Can I add, Professor Damini?
Yes, sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah. So the key difference between selling a product and selling a service is that while selling a product, you are selling something visible, and while selling a service, you are selling something invisible. And when you are selling something invisible that people cannot touch, you have to create psychological goodwill in the mind of the consumer, and the quantum of the psychological goodwill definitely has to be much higher than to be created by a product company, because you are selling something invisible. And as Mr. Jain rightly said, like thought leadership, and it also depends on the kind of the category in which you are selling the service. So high involvement, high risk categories like IT services, accounting, consulting services, legal services, all these kind of services requires a lot of thought leadership, because people are buying a premium service. There is a risk associated with that service, and they would like to give their money, time, and investment to somebody who is credible and knowledgeable about that space. But at the same time, there are low involvement categories also. So for example, I take a service from Uber and Ola, very low involvement category. My experience might not be good, but next time, okay, it's not a big risk, 200 rupees risk, right? My maid, the maid that I hire at my home might not be good. She has come to give me a service, but not a big risk, 1,000 rupees risk. So here I'm not looking for thought leadership. But I'm just looking for psychological goodwill, because Ola gave me the rating of that driver, that he is a good driver, or my neighbor told me that this maid is good, take her. But when I'm buying the high involvement, high pricey categories, then I will look for analyst ratings, newspaper mentions, customer testimonials. I mean, who is recommending? Is a known customer recommending, or it's like unknown, anybody is recommending? So all those things help in creating the psychological goodwill. That's the answer I want to give.
Okay, thank you so much. And now we are proceeding towards the last question of the session today, which is how would you advise? Okay, so we have a lot of young audience today with us. So what you would advise a new age player in the market to focus on to build their brand equity or product or for their service betterment? So your personal advice, by your expertise, what do you think? What is, I mean, we have everything in books, but we are looking for your expert suggestion.
Right. I can answer that because I am facing this challenge every day as a new entity trying to disrupt the traditional management consulting research industry. Where do you focus more on, the brand or performance? So I think initially it is all about your performance, and that's what earlier Harsh also told to youngsters, that initial career you have to develop your skills sets, and then you need to talk about it. And same for your new age companies also. So it is about your performance, right? Brand is a promise. Finally, if your promise is not delivered by your services, it will backfire. So you have to focus on your product and services performance also. And here also, like somebody, if he starts entrepreneur and all, your initial set of customers will always be a known circle, either your friends or family or your colleagues or classmates, customers, partners. In a way, your initial brand value is coming to them, and that you develop services, package it accordingly, and then you go out in the market. The difference only is that when you're winners takes all category, like Flipkarts and all, then you have to grow very fast, otherwise somebody else will take the market. So there, the brand equity is also important.
I think we lost him in between.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, maybe I'll just add on to what Mr. Jan was saying. So I would say there are two aspects. So one is brand equity, yes. The other thing is how strong your product and services. So both of them go hand in hand. One cannot survive without the other. So if you only have brand and you don't have substance, as Harsh was saying, you cannot survive in the market. Or if you only have product and services, which are very best, but you don't have a brand to take it forward to the clients, then also you can't survive. So the one is you have to build substance, then only you can build a particular brand. The other thing is to identify the differentiators in yourself. So how do you identify your differentiators? So every time there are a lot of activities which we as professionals do. So there was definitely something which is bread and butter for us every day. And there are certain categories which are innovations in our service delivery also. So you need to clearly distinguish and bring a balance that, yes, there is an enough amount of bread and butter activities which are there where you don't need so much of innovation. And then there has to be a category where you need to innovate yourself, which would be more meaningful, high contribution driven activities as well. But you need to clearly balance both these activities hand in hand. That is the other aspect which I would like to bring. The third aspect which I would say, today environment, we have a lot of data which is residing everywhere, and as people or as companies, as consultants, most of them don't know how to utilize this data. So there are a lot of solutions. There are a lot of possibilities which we can deliver based on just analyzing various trends and various trigger points from this data, be it through social media analytics, be it through negative sentiment analysis, be it through positive sentiment analysis. analyze and bring out those facts which would help you to thrive on those. What actually is customer looking for? We need to hit that pulse and then structure our service delivery or our product delivery according to that. So identifying the problem right and building the package around that problem statement is something which is of core importance. So all these things, I think, going hand in hand, brings a lot of brand equity to an individual or to an organization per se. So that's something which I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you so much. Farid ji, we lost you in between.
Yeah.
Would you like to complete your suggestions? You were talking about brand equity.
Yeah, so at initial, like brand equity is for you, but before that is the performance. Brand is about the trust. So for initially, at early part of your career, you have to develop your performance, and then brand follows. And similarly, as an entrepreneur, if you start a firm, your product will matter more. Brand is a promise. Finally, if you don't deliver, it will backfire on. And when you start entrepreneur, I think your initial set always be somebody who known to you, either your friends, colleagues, your classmates, customers. Your initial brand is anyway coming into. Later, I think you will should focus more on your packaging your service, your maturing your service. Customers will be patient with you, and then you should think about. Only thing I want to add: the brand is not built in a day. Is not built in a day. Brand is not built in a day. You have to think earlier that how you want to position your brand in this. What is your brand DNA? Like for me, is the information I figured out earlier. So everything I do is around information. I share the videos, I share the content, I write, I deliver service. So what is your finally brand DNA? Expert, your change management expert, your expert, your turnaround expert. So something you figure out of career, what is your brand? And think about it, how you do, but first performance and equity.
True. So I have also seen people like they are more focused upon the logos, the physical layouts and everything, the surface level things rather than the quality
Of it.
Yes,
Right.
so they must be
Absolutely.
focused upon it. Yes, Mr. Harsh.
Thank you, Professor Damini. This is a very important question, and I would like to break it conceptually. What are the two things a new age player is looking for? Customers and talent. Customers to give the revenue and talent to deliver those services. Now, why the customer will come to this new age player when so many other players are already available in the market, when this new age player is known for something? So the advice is focus on a niche and become master of that. I mean, somebody said it beautifully. One should be able to respect himself more than anybody else in a particular niche. That should be the aim. And when that kind of refinement comes, customers come because they see the quality of the work. But what the mistake most of the new age players make is that they look at the larger brands and they see that they get tempted to get into so many things because larger brands are getting into so many things. But they have to understand about their resources, their time and effort, which can go into one area to become master of one field and then build upon it. The second thing is that, which I talked about, getting. So this was about gaining the customer side. If you are known for something, if you are looked upon as a specialist, people will in that particular niche will come to you and will pay premium to you. Now, the second thing is that getting a great talent to serve this customer who is looking for specialization. It means you have to hire great talent, which has many other options also. I mean, especially in today's age, when the brands like Tata's and Hindustan Lever are fighting with new age unicorns to get the talent. I mean, how come a new player will have that kind of money to, let's say, get the good talent? So a new age player also has to market itself on the basis of its culture and values, which we also call employer brand. I mean, the talent should feel that I'm working at this place not just because of money, but because this person has a purpose, this person is solving a problem, and if I'm going to be part of this journey, I'm going to create something big which I will feel proud of when I look back to my journey. And this place is a great place to work because people are treated respectfully, ethically, and that environment is great where I will flourish. So when this kind of cultural branding reach to the talent gets attracted. So I think first focus on a niche, become master of that, and focus on creating a strong employer brand on the foundation of a strong culture.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Harsh. Now, Aditya, I would like to ask the audience for their questions. Okay, so they can unmute themselves and ask the questions from panelists.
Students are requested to raise their hands and ask their questions accordingly.
I hope that they might be having a lot of questions today.
Ayush has a question.
Yes, Ayush, to whom you want to ask the question?
Ma'am, it's a general question open for all, and it's
All
a rather broad question. So the question is, while there is a lot of discussion as to how new age players can, establish a brand for themselves, there is not much of literature that discusses how traditional players or traditional MSMEs should go on about building a brand for themselves. So what are some of the key activities that they can initially take up that would help them in, building a brand or strengthening their brand equity?
So I would just like to answer Ayush. Ayush, typically when we look at MSME domain, so MSME are largely focused on product side of it, or to bring in that level of service excellence. So as Harsh rightly pointed out, that you need to bring that mastery within that product or that service that you are offering, and then think towards the marketing side of it or the branding side of it. So if you look at MSME sector, traditionally they have been very focused on how to strengthen their overall product or the service that they are offering, either through manual intensive or capital intensive various techniques that they have been following. Traditionally, MSME is not very focused or not known for bringing brand as we say put forward. They largely remain in the tier 2 domain, where they want to build their brand equity as a next gen supplier to a tier 1 supplier typically. So their brand equity, which is largely driven, is through quality promises that they bring onto the table, based on which the tier 1 is actually able to service either through a large OEM brand, original equipment manufacturing brand, or to the B2C kind of a mechanism. So largely MSME are focused on the B2B side of it, and that's why traditionally they are not very focused on the branding piece of it. Their brand largely exists based on the quality promise and the trust factor that we were talking about, which actually addresses their brand. So that's I would like to answer. Parikji and Harshi, over to you if you want to add.
I think you rightly said, Chetan, on this. Focus first on a product and performance. Simultaneously, I think the advantage of nowadays, cost of branding, some of tools are very down now. You can take MSMEs can take advantage of some of these. Also, like when you develop good product, you can take customer codes. You can have your social media. It doesn't cost that much. So you can start branding these aspects, taking clue from big companies, which doesn't cost that. So it will help them in attracting more investment, attracting not only sales. Sales will be based on performance. They can start preparing for the brand, and some of MSMEs will grow to the next level also. All the stories of these things, Ledger Papa, Haldirams of the world in consumer side. So they are next level. So I think today, digital media as good as the large big players also, and start building their first focus is product and performance.
Can I also add, Ayush? So Ayush, I would say that MSME can grow in 3 ways. The first and foremost, by becoming a supplier of a bigger player. The second one is by focusing on a regional market, which a bigger player is not much focusing on. And the third thing would be to solve a problem that a bigger player is not solving. Okay. Have you seen this movie Padman? Akshay Kumar's movie Padman that came in 2018.
No, personally, I haven't.
Go and watch it. It's a wonderful movie. You will learn a lot about women's problems and also about like how a MSME brand can get created. Wonderful story. It's about like sanitary pad revolution at the bottom of the pyramid. Now, the person that created it was an MSME player, Anvachala Muruganantham, whose role is played by Akshay Kumar. And we all being urban audience, we know that brands like P&G and bigger brands have been selling sanitary pads for ages, marketing through TV. Then why the penetration has been so low? The problem that this guy solved. Why? Because brands like global brands were marketing their product in English language. And how many people in India understand English? 10%. 90% of people in India understand their regional languages. Then these bigger brands were selling these pads through medical stores, which are run by men and women, mostly in rural India, are not comfortable about buying this pad-like product from man, selling at a general store, right? So there was a distribution channel problem. And the third problem was that these brands which were getting sold by P&G, Stay Free, Carefree, and all these bigger brands were getting sold in English. भैया मेरे को अपना रूरल बंगाली लैंग्वेज आता है, मैं नहीं समझता कि आपके इंग्लिश में क्या लिखा हुआ है. I don't understand it. And that's why what this gentleman has done, he has created a portfolio of 1,000 brands in vernacular languages. And because of which his brand's penetration is too deep at the bottom of the pyramid, and he cracked the market then that bigger brands with millions of dollars were not able to crack. So you have to think in that way. Watch that movie, you will get more ideas, right?
So thank you so much. Thank you, Ayush, for your question. Yes, Ajinkya.
Yes, ma'am. This is Ajinkya Pol, PG Best 21-23. So my question is to all the panelists, like, how do you see the technology affecting the brand building today? And do you see any kind of trend in the industry that certain companies are using the combination of marketing technologies, so that is making their brand stand out in the market?
So I would just like to add one thing. Ajinkya, largely if we look at the overall trend, so if we look at marketing tools, there are two definitions which are very prominently used in the domain. One is the ATL and the other one is BTL, above the line expenditure and below the line expenditure. So if you look at typically below the line expenditure, which used to be incurred through various channels like pamphlets, posters, activations, events, etc. If you look at most of the BTL expenditure now is being directed towards digital, social media, and other technology interventions as far as the marketing and the branding is concerned. So overall, if we look at from 2014, 2015 till now, the marketing spends on social media, on technology platform has seen an exponential growth, which is more than 200% of what they used to be in the earlier times. So that kind of a role which technology is playing right now. And the other thing, where there are a lot of technology tools which are there to tap into the right domain of social media as well. It's not advisable that if there is a service or if there is a product, where do you start channelizing? Yes, social media is a platform where you can do some kind of a branding, you can do some kind of a marketing, but which audience to target? Where do you take this forward to? There are a lot of technology interventions. There are a lot of startups who have come into this domain where they are actually telling the brands, they're actually telling the companies that where do you take your products into, which customer that you should be targeting. For example, Ajinkya, you open X particular application and you only see that what you have searched 1 hour back, you are seeing advertisement of, and you are seeing banner of that particular product and the related brand which are saying. This is all possible through the technology intervention which is being done by the new age companies on how to analyze consumer behaviors, on which are the age groups that we need to target. So there is a whole lot of opportunity which exists on how you can actually strengthen, how you can actually penetrate your branding strategy right at the doorstep of the consumer, and not something which is hit in the dark or boil the complete ocean, as we say. So over to you, Harshji and Parikji, if you want to add.
Parikji, I will go after you if you have.
Chetan. So So Chetan, about this thing. So I see the two thoughts on this. That one is the mix has changed technology. Lot of spend is on digital these areas. Other thing is that your for measuring the brand performance. They are famous. It's still relevant. The people said that I know, but which is the 50%, which part works, I don't know. Advertising works. So now that problem has been solved with a lot of tools we have. Like I was giving example, HR analytics, the where your brand is higher, your cost is low, and also other analytics. You can the impact of different channels. And there's a brand analytics service. It's offered by most of the IT. They offer this brand analytics. They social media sentiments. Especially in B2B industry, they scan all social media. What customers are talking about your products. Customers are talking about the categories. So that input goes back to R&D in this. So branding in a way, what I'm seeing is now is closed loop also. The feedback from customers, which is going back to R&D. They are 10, 15 years back. People just thought they need to do and they develop, and the feedback was not coming back here. So these two ways we brand now. One is mix and one is the technologies.
Okay.
Ajinkya, can I also answer to your question? I would like to add that without technology, you cannot build a brand at scale, period.
Right.
Why? Think about McDonald's. You go to McDonald's in Malaysia and you go to McDonald's in Mumbai. You will find the French fry with the same kind of orange color. You will find the burger with the same kind of crispiness. Why? Because McDonald's backend is purely technology enabled. I mean, the people know at what temperature the fryer will cook a burger. These fryers are automated. They are connected through IoT devices so that tomorrow any maintenance is required. The maintenance happens at the proper time. And that's why McDonald's has been running thousands and thousands of stores with consistent kind of product quality everywhere. It couldn't have happened without a backend technology, right? Today, imagine how easy it is for you to get a cab even at 3 a.m. when you land at airport or at a railway station, because Uber and Ola gives you like everything, like how much a driver will charge, in what time it will come, and what kind of cab you need. You take it immediately, and you are not the only customer. They are serving lakhs and lakhs of customers at that particular point in time. And why they are able to do it? Because of the technology backend, right? If imagine calling a cab provider at 3 a.m. In night, nobody would have picked up your phone. But today they have created a credible brand because of technology. Because nobody is waking awake at that time to serve you a cab, technology serves you. Imagine how the bad technology can make a bad impact on the brand. Imagine you purchase something from Amazon, you invest couple of hours in creating your cart, and then the payment gateway is not working. The cash on delivery option is not available, and the payment gateway is not working. I mean, how bad experience you will have, right? You wasted your hour in preparing a card, but the technology is not working, payment gateway is not working, you will get irritated. So technology is very, very important for customer experience at scale, which is the foundation of bigger brands or the fast growing brands.
Okay, Ajinkya. So you
Yes.
got 3 different perspectives for your question, right? Thank you so much. So I think we have only one more question from Arsh. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
I'm Amadarsh from PGB batch 2023. So my question is to everyone. So what are the factors that international brands should consider when they enter into a diverse market like India, and also not getting their global brand image not diluted? Sarah has given an example about Padman before, and about McDonald's and all. So if you could, all of them could explain a bit on that.
So I think I'll just take a cue from Harsh's example on McDonald's. So if you look at McDonald's being a global brand, we talked about how crispy a burger should be in Malaysia and in Mumbai. But you just attach it with local sentiments. In Malaysia, the largest selling SKU for Malaysian McDonald's, say, would be beef burger. But in India, the largest selling SKU would be, say, Aloo Tikki Burger. So any brand, any international brand, when they are entering into a market which is as diverse in India, they have to keep in mind what are the local values or the local nuances which are there. And let aside international brand, a brand which is working in North, if it has to diverse themselves into South, within the southern part of India, they will have to undergo a lot of cultural change. And we have seen, we have come across a lot of such examples across B2C products. There they have to customize their recipes, their brand strategies when they are moving towards one place to another. You can take an example of brands like Domino's. When they are moving, then when they are opening a store which is in Jammu, they are serving pure veg pizzas with a store which is in Katra, which is in Vaishno Devi. So they and it's a domestic brand. It's an Indian pizza chain which is again opening a store in Vaishno Devi, Katra, with serving pure vegetarian. So within India, considering the diversification, the culture that we have, we need to customize the brand. We need to customize the brand to that aspect, but without diluting the overall values. So what we need to focus on is the core value that your brand is delivering. Distinguish the core values from what you are actually trying to achieve. So you should have a clear goal plan that this is the end objective of the brand. There are various ways and means to achieve it, which can be customized depending upon various markets that you are entering into.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think, Arsh, you have got your answer.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And now I would like to take the opportunity to thank all my wonderful panelists today, Mr. Chetan, Mr. Harsh, Mr. Parik, and Mr. Vijay, for being here with us and indulged into a great conversation and showing us the real life impact and give a good understanding of the brand building. Okay, so I thank you all, and I would also like to thank the team, Soumya, Aditya, and Omanshu, for assisting me throughout the session. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, everyone. And now I would like to end this panel discussion.
And before you end, I also want to say thanks to everybody for being wonderful audience. Thanks to Mr. Chetan, thanks to Mr. Parik for being wonderful co-panelists. And thank you, Damini ma'am, for giving me this opportunity for moderating the session so nicely. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Harshi. Thank you, Professor Damini. Thank you, Parik ji, for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Damini ma'am. And wish you all the best in your whatever placement seasons and going forward. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hello, panelists. Just to summarize a bit, building a brand requires a cumulative effort of various minds from various backgrounds, which we saw in our panel. And I guess it will not be wrong to say that products have life cycles, but brand outlives products. And each one of us aspires to be a brand someday. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the panel members for their valuable insights on the topic and for sharing us their enriching experience on this topic that will truly help us in fostering ideas and building our own successful brands someday in the future. To all the panelists, we would have loved to host you all on our beautiful campus, and we wish that we could see you very soon in future for another round of intellectual conversation with our enthusiastic students. As a token of appreciation, IIM Raipur will also be reaching out very soon with Karmaanta' merchandise and mementos that will be engraved into our memories forever. Thank you once again for joining in.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you.